Welcome. Zambian court forfeit 79 vehicles and 23 properties from Dalitso Lungu in major asset seizure. In a landmark judgment delivered on February 9, 2026, the Economic and Financial Crimes Court in Lusaka ordered the forfeiture of 79 motor vehicles and 23 properties belonging to Dalitso Lungu, son of former Zambian President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, after finding that the assets constituted proceeds of crime under the Forfeiture of Proceeds of Crime Act No. 29 of 2010. The extensive seizure covers a diverse portfolio of vehicles and real estate valued at more than K24 million Zambian kwacha. Among the assets forfeited are a shopping mall and a filling station in Jack Compound, double-story luxury apartments, and an executive residence in Salama Park, Lusaka, marking one of the largest forfeiture outcomes in recent Zambian legal history. Court findings and legal basis. The three-judge panel, Pixie Angelo, Anion Nwoju, and Ian Mabalabalo, ruled that the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, had successfully established a case for non-conviction forfeiture. That means the court accepted the state's evidence that the assets lacked a lawful explanation, even in the absence of criminal conviction. In its judgment, the court observed that Dalitso Lungu's employment earnings and documented income were far too modest to justify ownership of such an extensive fleet and property portfolio. Court records showed that his legitimate work income, including a brief stint at Varun Beverages Zambia Limited and later service at the Zambia Revenue Authority, totaled an amount insufficient to acquire and maintain the seized assets. Further scrutiny of Saloid Traders Limited, the business entity linked to Dalitso Lungu, revealed gaps in financial documentation. Tax filings, bank statements, and formal property conveyancing records did not support lawful acquisition claims. The court especially emphasized that claims of family gifts or business income were not backed by credible evidence, triggering the forfeiture under the law's presumption mechanism. Background of the forfeiture proceedings. This case is part of a long-running legal process by the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, to recover unexplained wealth that the state regards as potentially linked to unlawful conduct. Earlier reporting shows the DPP contended that Dalitso had amassed unexplained wealth estimated at around K31 million, a claim that underpinned the forfeiture application. In previous hearings, Dalitso had argued that many of the assets were purchased by his father, former President Edgar Lungu, or acquired through legitimate business activities. However, the court found that such assertions lacked the necessary documentary proof to validate the claims. Legal and public reaction. Under Zambia's forfeiture law, once the state demonstrates a reasonable basis to suspect that property is tainted, the burden shifts to the property holder to prove its lawful acquisition. In this case, the court concluded that Dalitso and his company failed to meet that burden. The forfeiture order also underscores the state's strengthened stance on combating financial crime and recovering assets deemed inconsistent with declared income, especially when linked to politically exposed individuals. Legal and civil society commentators see this ruling as reinforcing the broader legal framework for tackling unexplained wealth. Observers also expect this judgment to influence other ongoing forfeiture and asset recovery cases involving high-profile figures. What happens next? The court directed that the forfeited assets be transferred to and managed by the DPP in accordance with the law, and ordered that Dalitso Lungu and his company be condemned in costs. While the ruling represents a decisive victory for prosecution, it may yet be subject to appeal in Zambia's higher courts, depending on the defense's next legal steps. A broader pattern of asset forfeiture and legal action. 1. Earlier arrests and charges against Dalitso Lungu. Before the forfeiture of 79 vehicles and 23 properties, Dalitso Lungu and his wife, Matilda Malinga, were arrested in 2023 on charges related to possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime and money laundering under the Forfeiture of Proceeds of Crime Act. Police allege that their company, Saloid Traders Limited, owned dozens of vehicles and significant fixed assets believed to be acquired illegally. Both were released on bail pending court appearances. 2. Forfeiture case against Tasila Lungu, daughter. Dalitso's sibling, Tasila Lungu, a politician and former member of parliament, has also been at the center of non-conviction forfeiture proceedings. In 2024, The Economic and Financial Crimes Court ordered the forfeiture of an 8 million kwacha farm in Sinda district owned by Tassila after finding that her lawful income could not support the purchase. The court ruled this property was tainted wealth and should go to the state. The Court of Appeal later granted a conditional stay on enforcing that forfeiture while Tassila's appeal proceeds, meaning the property remains in legal limbo during the appeal but cannot be sold or transferred. These proceedings show a recurring theme. The courts are applying Zambia's forfeiture laws to question whether family members' assets can be explained by legitimate income. 3. Other asset seizures, proxy cases, beyond direct family members. Courts have also ordered forfeiture of assets linked to alleged proxies of former President Lungu, indicating a wider investigation into networks tied to the previous administration. For example, assets valued at around $80 million connected to a business associate were ordered forfeited to the state after being tied to alleged illicit conduct. 4. Political and public debate surrounding these actions. Legal actions against the Lungu family have generated considerable public debate. Supporters of Edgar Lungu's Patriotic Front, PF, party have described asset seizures and arrests as politically motivated or a targeting of the former ruling family. Critics argue the actions reflect a genuine anti-corruption push by Zambia's current administration. Transparency and civil society groups have called for thorough investigations and rigorous evidence gathering to ensure accountability rather than selective prosecution. 5. Intersecting issues beyond forfeiture. While many legal matters involve financial and property disputes, there have also been other legal or quasi-legal disputes touching on the family, such as disagreements over the burial arrangements for Edgar Lungu after his death, which have involved court battles between the family and the state over protocol and rights. Although not a corruption case, these proceedings contribute to the sense that the Lungu family is frequently in prolonged legal contestation with state authorities. Why this matters? Taken together, these cases illustrate a multi-front legal scrutiny of wealth, property, and influence tied to Zambia's former president's family. Authorities are invoking non-conviction-based forfeiture laws to target unexplained wealth. The cases span different family members, suggesting a systemic investigation rather than isolated incidents. Appeals and stays signal that the judiciary remains central to resolving these high-profile disputes. Thank you for watching. For more content like this, please subscribe to the channel. One Zambia, one nation, one people.